Welcome back to Down in the DMs, Rams, and this week may just have my favorite question to be asked so far this year. To start off, this comes from an old friend of CTV, Jason Ortiz. Who is the most biased, Ethan or Ethan?
You know, I don't think this is very funny. Because, well, Jason, first off, let me just get a message out to Jason.
Okay.
You just have a vendetta against me. You just because we don't agree doesn't mean I'm biased. It means you're just as biased as me, buddy. Anyway, and I'm not even that much of a homer these days. I'm really not.
These days,
I'm
okay.
well, you know, if I really want to take a step professionally, I've got to, let go of some biases. You've heard me talk about the Rockies recently. Not a whole lot of good stuff. I can center myself. You, however, let me just bring up one name, and we'll just.
One name?
I'll just say.
Okay.
Phillip Rivers.
Oh, my gosh. Yep, I knew that's what's happening. Okay.
And now you tell me who's more biased.
Oh, my goodness. Are you kidding me? You are absolutely more biased. First of all, I would just like to say that during your segment about the NBA All-Star game, with all of these different All-Stars, you had to say, as much as we may have all wanted the Big Honey of Denver to be the biggest star Sunday night,
is it not
How
our
is
city?
that not?
It's newsworthy.
That's your homer mentality right here. That is your homer mentality.
And we're in Fort Collins. Let's hop, skip, and a jump to Denver. Of course, everybody wants to see Nikola Jokic succeed. He's the happiest guy in the NBA. Doesn't even matter if you're a Nuggets fan.
That is all you talk about, though. It's the Nuggets, the Rockies, or the Broncos. No matter what, you're going to be a homer. You have that.
Talked about the Rams today.
Oh, my goodness. How is that different than a homer? You're literally talking about where you go to school.
This is an offensive question, and it's egregious.
Well, first of all, I think he didn't actually think that we were going to use this on television, but I think it's great, and I would love to have asked this myself, but...
I do nothing wrong. Anyway.
I don't think we should have started with this question. Now you're just going to be angry the rest of the night.
I'm just going to be indignant. Ethan has entered the chat.
And I'm going to be watching everything that you say so that we make sure you're not biased.
It's time to get serious for a second, all right? And we're going to move on. Our next question comes from Megan Hayes. She asks how COVID-19 will impact March Madness. What are you thinking?
I mean, it's definitely going to be really weird. But at this point, I feel that these teams are kind of getting used to the idea that there are no fans in the stands. Yeah. They've definitely gotten comfortable with that. I mean, NCAA has said that there are going to be some fans in attendance. Obviously, it's going to be very limited. It's definitely going to be really weird, especially because March Madness is such a huge time for these kids. They're playing basketball to get to that pro level, and this is one of the most exciting tournaments that they could be a part of. And to not have stands full of their fans that are cheering them on constantly is definitely going to be weird, and I think it's going to mess with their mentality and momentum throughout some of these games as well.
Well, if anything, it's really just going to impact sports fans in general. These teams, like you said, they've been playing in empty stadiums all year, and they're fortunately going to get the blessing and the privilege to have some fans in the stands. But then you also have to ask the question: is what happens if a positive hits the bubble?
Yeah.
And that's where the big impacts are going to happen in the things that we don't know. There are a lot of unknowns here. What happens if games have to be canceled? What happens if a fan brings COVID-19 into an arena?
Yeah.
You never know. And really, if anything, if that happens, the people that are going to get hurt most are the fans at home. Because March Madness is the best sporting event of the year, every year. It's the happiest time to watch basketball. So I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about March Madness. So really, the impact of COVID-19 on this remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just think you got to kind of compare it a little bit to the NBA bubble and how they had to deal with all of that as well. But it's interesting because the NCAA's VP of basketball even said it's not a bubble. We're just trying to kind of contain and minimize the contact with outside parties, which makes complete sense. But like you said, it's going to be really hard to avoid that one positive test that's going to just break the whole thing down.
It's like walking the finest, thinnest of lines against something that you can't see. And it's not a job I would like to have to make any of these decisions.
Well, especially with having so many people on a single team. I mean, there's going to be way too many people. It's going to be really hard to contain that contact tracing. So just going to have to wait and see.
So at least it's not our issue.
That is true. I wouldn't want to have to deal with that myself as well. But anyway, lastly, we're going to move on to our final question from Benjamin Anderson. How will Blake Griffin fare in Brooklyn? Ethan?
Oh, man, I'm sure he'll be a lot happier to not be in Detroit anymore. If anything, he's playing for a much better team. In terms of share of minutes, I doubt he's going to get the amount of minutes that he would prefer, especially when you have Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden on a team, or even not even minutes, but share in scoring. But I don't think that's too much of an issue for Blake right now because he's only averaging 12.3 points per game this season compared to his career average of 20. So I think this is a great addition for the Nets. He at least adds a little bit of defense to that team. So maybe 160 won't be scored against them, 150 in the coming weeks. But Blake really won this.
Oh yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. The only thing is, I do agree that this is probably a great chance for him. I think that he's gonna do pretty well on Brooklyn, but like you said, he's not gonna have as many minutes as one would look for going on to a team like this. But yeah, because you got KD, you got Harden, you got Kyrie, you got this whole team that is finally meshing together, and they're able to find their foot on the court and get themselves to the best chance that they have right now at winning a championship. I mean, this is probably his best chance of winning a championship for a long time. And like you said, his scoring average is not as high as he would like it to be, but that's also because he's been dealing with a lot of injuries lately. So I think as long as he can keep himself healthy and up to speed and healthy, I'm just going to emphasize that one more time.
Double up on healthy.
Yeah, if he can kind of stay off the sideline from injuries, I think it's going to be really good for him to be in Brooklyn. I mean,
$1.22 million to kind of ride off into the sun. I mean, how many more years do we have left with Blake Griffin?
Yeah, seriously.
I can't even really remember an NBA without Blake Griffin. He has been in the league, much longer than anybody really realizes, and really molded this league into a really fun and competitive environment. And it's just probably a dream situation for him. He gets off of a cellar team onto a stellar team, bars, and then makes some money out of it.
I would just like to see him go back to I have to move on from that. I'm not even going to touch that. But anyway, I would just like to see him go back to his state where he was just dunking all the time. I definitely miss that version of Blake Griffin.
He don't dunk like that no more.
No, I know.
He's probably got them old Blake Griffin knees, which is why he's probably not dunking anymore. I got bad knees.
Which is probably why he's injured a lot as well.
Bad knees all around, and a bad ending to that question, so I'm just going to take us out.
Okay.
That is all the time that we have for tonight, but Rachel and I'm going to say it again, we'll be in Vegas tomorrow to cover the Men's Mountain West Tournament. Make sure to follow at CTV11 on Twitter and Instagram to hear all of our updates from the Thomas & Mack Center. I'm Ethan Bird.
And I'm Rachel Hallam. Make sure to tune in the same time tomorrow night to catch Hubbard's Huddle, hosted by none other than Ellison Hubbard. Good night, Rams.